Hello, nice to see you all here watching my video. My name is Juan Camilo Rojas. I am a UNAD student, and I'm going to talk to you today about the course Foreign Language Acquisition and Learning with the code 518051. 15, sorry. Uh, I'm, I know that I'm not supposed to be reading anything according to the syllabus, but it's almost impossible to remember all the stuff that is involved and is included in the syllabus and all the contents of this course. So I'm going to be using my cell phone as a guide, as a visual guide, not to be reading, but to remember the main part of this course. I know that the main goal of this exercise, phase one, is to force the students who actually don't read the syllabus to force them to do it. So I did it, and I'm going to show you. So, okay, I'm going to start describing the course, which is, as I told you before, the Foreign Language Acquisition and Learning, which is a methodological course with a participant observant phase, which means that is the student is going to be in a real context, practicing what he is learning in the class. So that is a part of the practical component of the course in the bachelor's degree of English as a foreign language. The course has two units. Unit one is from theory to practice, and unit two is learning trends in foreign language. It has five parts or phases. Phase one is called recognition. Phase two, three, and four are the participant observant practice, which is the one that I told you that is going to be the student in the context, in the real world context. And phase five is the final activity. So what are the outcome in learning of these processes? Well, of course, obviously, is going to be uh, the main outcome is that students will be uh, facing what a real life situation is in real classroom. So it's going to be giving a lot of technical and the technical supports, and the characteristics of the course will be known to the students because you are facing that in a real life. The main part of the phase one, as you are seeing, is to record a video to let the tutor or the teacher, the professors, know that you actually read the syllabus and the content of the course. Phase two is to examine what is the factors that influence the learning process of the foreign language. Phase three is to compare the main theories on teaching of a language as a foreign language. And phase four is to evaluate the teaching strategies that are being used within the class. And finally, the phase five is to set up a proposal after that you evaluated your exam and you take into account whatever you saw in the class. So to set up a proposal as something that you can actually use within the classroom, some activities that you could think after this process, this research, we could call it like that. So you can actually use it in the classroom. What outcome learnings we can see from this process? Well, it will strengthen our skills as a teachers because we're going to be the observants of the classes, so we'll be learning what is going on in the class and what actually like put yourself in the shoes of somebody else because you are like a teacher, but you are observant only. So you will strengthen your abilities in that sense. The idea is also to get the students acquainted with the new tendencies in teaching a foreign language. And it will also generate some questions because you are observing something, so you will be thinking about what could be done better, what could be changed, and what is going on well that you don't have to actually to touch or correct that part of the class. So that is mainly the what is going on with the course, with the phases. So just review. We have five phases. two units in this course, which is actually a practical component of the course. All right, now we're going to talk about the agreement regulations of the pedagogical education practices. This document has 9 chapters. We're going to go through them one by one, just to talk about mainly the main goals of each chapter. In chapter 1, we're talking about the definition of and made objects of this objective of this course. So what is the definition? We already talked about it. It's a practical course, and the main goal is, like I said before, to set the students, the teachers, the future teachers that we are, in the real context environment where we're going to face all the things that are going on in a classroom, and to take into account what is going on there, to try to correct what is doing in a bad way, what could be done in a better way, as I just previously said. Then chapter 2 talks about the generalities and the definition of this. So what is the practical component? Pedagogical and educational practice. So once again, here are is the document telling us that this is a practical exercise. So whatever we have learned so far, we have to put it into practice in the classroom. Mm, the nature of the course that the university offers with the practical component. And that part, the chapter 2, also told us about the teachers in training, that we're going to be practicing with another teacher, because a tutor or another teacher is going to be guiding us into what we have to do with all these components. And the training route of the pedagogical practice, which is later on in the video, I'm going to be talking about the requirements that you have to fulfill in order to start the practical part of this bachelor degree. Then chapter 3 talks about the curricular aspects of the formative route of pedagogical and educational practice. So here is talking about the requirements of the practice. What do you have to fulfill before coming to this point? So one of the main requirements, pre-requirements that you need to fulfill, is that you have to pass some courses, and you have to had at least 40 credits to continue with the practice. This is going to be different in the other bachelors, like ethno education and math is going to be a little bit different. What are the pre-requirements to continue with the process? The courses of the formative route of pedagogical and educational practice, we're going to talk about that later on. Here is very important to let be clear with the part that is some teachers. I am a teacher myself. I've been working as a teacher for like more than 10 years already. And here the document is telling us that previous work experience is not going to be taken into account. So forget about that homologation of the practice that you've been done. No, forget about it. You will have to do it again, and to show that you are, because what's going on with the university UNAD is that they set up some courses with some educational institutes. So you have to go to that because they have some agreement before. So you have to go to to those places that they have an agreement with the university. The practice is pedagogical practice is also compulsory, and it have to be carried out in the place where you've been assigned. You cannot change that. Later on, we're going to talk about that, because you could fail the course if you changed your assigned place without telling your tutor in advance. Okay, chapter 4 is talking about the principle of actions in teacher training and pedagogical educational practice. So here mainly is telling us that we have to be having some integrity, as we are the face of the university. We have to keep in contact with our tutors, telling everything what is going on. We have to keep a dialogue, an open dialogue. We have to remember that we're working with children, so we have to be careful with the rights uh, without disrespecting, and remember there is a lot of students with different backgrounds, so we have to be uh, paying attention to that in order not to make a mistake. And also, so you have to remember to be giving an excellent service. Don't forget about your costume, right? I mean, not your costume, but the way you are dressing, it must be formal. Then on chapter 5, they talk about the definition of the academic network of the educational practices. So in here, they are telling us that there's a rank of from the national program leader, some national practices tutors and teams and teachers, and you are going to be assigned to a teacher, so you have to be in contact with them first and continue that sequence of the network, of the teachers network. On chapter 6, they are telling us about a practice seminar, the pre-practice seminar. In this pre-practice seminar is where the the practice scenarios is going to be assigned to you. Is a requirement that you have to also do that before you start your practices. That usually happens a term before the practice term comes on. So and the pre-practice seminar, the one that I'm telling you about, where your scenario is going to be assigned to you. So it's important you log into that later on. On chapter 7, they are talking about the monitor and evaluation of the pedagogical and educational practice. So here they are explaining that the teacher that is assigned to us is going to be giving feedback to us all the time. So we have to, as I told before, we have to keep a good communication with, we have to build a rapport with the teacher. Um, Here they also mention the grounds for failure of the course. Obviously, one of them is not to be there, not to show yourself over there, to be late. You also have to remember that you are working for somebody else, so it's a school, institute, whatever it is, or those who are in the virtual environment. You have to be all the time on time, so just don't forget that. Um, to be impolite, of course, you have to be polite. You have to remember that we're working with people, with students, and most of them are going to be underage. So you have to be careful with that, how you treat people. And as long as you behave, you be on time, you prepare your courses, your classes before doing that. So everything is going to be okay. I believe so. On chapter 8, sorry, it's telling us about a little bit of what I just said, that are the duties and rights of the training teachers in the pedagogical and educational environment. So duties for us, first of all, we have to get the ARL insurance, the medical insurance is something that we have to do. We cannot start the practices without it. We have to be responsible, keep in touch with our teachers, with our tutors all the time, having a good conversation and a feedback between each other of the persons that are involved in this situation. Obviously, be on time, as I just mentioned before, and prepare your materials on time before, so everything is going to be okay and it's not going to be like you are improvising in the place. That is not going to be look good after that. And the rights for teachers, we have the right to get a certification. The institute or the school where we're working is going to give us a certificate that we actually did some practice over there that could be used in the future as a job experience that we can show. We have also the right to be having the medical insurance, which is covered by the university. The university is the one in charge of providing us the ARL, But of course, we have to do it ourselves. We have to log in a page with a link that is provided in some of the syllabus that they had given us. So we have to fill in some forms, and you just gotta wait for the document to come out, which is actually coming out within 10 days. I did it already, and it was great because it took just 3 days to get the ARL insurance. Okay, that's part of the chapter 8. Now, chapter 9. Chapter 9 is also telling you about the certification of the pedagogical and educational practice as a recognition of your work experience, as I just said, which you could use for your first job if you don't have, if you haven't started your career yet. So the time is spent in that place, whether it's a school or a virtual environment, is must be certified, and it applies from the this document applies and is in I mean is signed by the people who just did it from March 29th, 2022. Okay, now we're going to move on the guidelines for the development of pedagogical and educational practice. What this document is going to uh, let us know as students is the connection between the theory and the practice, like I just previously mentioned that. So it's to generate some different training, not in a virtual environment, but more like in a real life context, and that you can find actually in the community where you are going to be teaching, whether it's a school or a virtual world. But anyway, you're going to be in touch with students in a real basis. Well, so this guideline is telling us the following. The normative reference, where you can find all the government rules describing the resolutions and the laws about the government taking uh, or talking about how these components of the pedagogical practice are articulated in the training of new teachers. And according to all these rules, the educational, pedagogical, and practice is recognized as a training for us as new teachers, with the idea of developing new skills in our competence as future teachers. The principles of actions, once again, is telling us that we are the face of the university UNAD, so we have to be careful. We have to show integrity. Uh, this is in order to protect the school, the university face. Once again, is talking about the dialogue that we have to continue keeping between the tutors and the students, and we have to promote the protective environment for children. Once again, so both documents are related and interconnected between each other. Here, once again, it's talking about the children, and we're going to be working with them, so we have to be careful and behave. We have to respect the differences. Remember that we have different ethnics, different people, and nowadays we have different sexualities and behaviors. So we have to be respecting and be careful because we're teaching children. And of course, we have to provide an excellent service to the community where we're going to be. Uh, then they talk about the different bachelor degrees that the university is providing in the ESEDU, in the educational part of the university, which are the degree of children's pedagogy, a degree in ethnoeducation, mathematics, philosophy, and of course the one that I'm taking is bachelor degree in English as a foreign language. Then these guidelines are talking about the definition of this as a whole, and the practice section, of course, is like the social part of it, because we're going to be uh, sharing time with people, not actually like now that I'm talking to the computer myself alone, expecting that someone is going to be actually reading and listening to this. It's part of the phase one, as I said. Mm, so this is going to be giving us the skills that we need and the collaborative skills because we're going to be working with more people doing this practical exercise. So the pedagogical practice in the School of Educational Science of the UNAD is where future teachers like myself are going to be getting the skills that we need for our future and professional career. Then it talks about the practice route. And the route, as I told you, is already set by the university. You have to follow the scheme that they have over there. You cannot skip some courses. There's a pattern to do that, and there's an order that you have to follow, and it's already done by the university. Uh, of course, you have to fulfill some credits, and the minimum required for English bachelor is of course 40 credits as a minimal, and of course you have to have taken and passed some courses. I have to be clear with this because other bachelor degrees like math and philosophy they have different minimal requirements. Some of them requires 120 credits, but in the case of English, it's just 40. Then we have to mention the seminario pre-práctica or the pre-practice seminar, which is taking most of the time a term before the actual practice. It is compulsory. It doesn't cost anything. It's for free, but you could fail it if you don't participate in the forum. You have to remember that according to this practical uh, pre uh, pre-seminar is where your site for doing the practice is going to be assigned. So you have to be careful of assisting to it, attending to it. Sorry. What else? Let me see. Yeah, that mentioned that all the time, and it is compulsory. Don't forget about it, because if you don't do the pre-seminar, you are not going to be able to do the practice part of it. After that, these guidelines are telling us about the ESAPEC. What is ESAPEC? So in Spanish is Estrategia de Acompañamiento Presencial de la Escuela de Ciencias de la Educación, which is like the face-to-face of the practice. I call it that way. Is the plan by the university to assist and help us with the interaction of the process of this assessment, because they have to give us some feedback to students we are doing the practice to know what are we doing okay, what are we doing wrong, so we can change and get a better result out of this practice environment. Then they want us to talk about the simulator, which is another way of doing the practice, but this is more like the incorporation of a digital resource of learning for the harden of the concepts that we've been practicing and doing in different environments. So it's a construction of knowledge and its application in new scenarios focused on the real environment context. Well, that's all my video. I hope I made clear that I actually read the context of it. I'm in my fourth term right now, which is actually when the practical part of the main bachelor degree is going to be started. Thank you for listening to me and have a good day. Bye.